Hello everyone, today we're going to be going over 14 rate, ratio, and proportion problems from the 2017 SHSAT Student Handbook. We're going to be starting off, this is Form A. We're going to be starting off with question 59 and ending it with question 114. The link to this test is in the description. Without further ado, let's get started. If an owner of a tree farm plants pine trees and oak trees in a ratio of 8:3, how many oak trees are planted if 264 pine trees are planted? We can turn this 8/3 into a fraction. So we have pine trees at the top and we have oak trees at the bottom. They say the owner plants pine and oak, so 8 pine for every 3 oak. And then he says how many oak trees, so we're finding oak, which is x, are planted if 264 pine trees are planted. 264, which is the pine trees. Remember that whenever you have a ratio, it'll always stay constant. So no matter what the number of oak trees are, no matter what the number of pine trees are, it's always going to be equal to 8/3. So we can just write them as equal fractions, because whatever the denominator of this is, it's going to simplify into 8/3. How do we find that? We can just cross multiply. We can do 8 times x, which is 8x, is equal to 264 times 3. 264 times 3 is equal to 792. If we divide by 8, x is going to be equal to 99. So he planted 99 oak trees. If you want to really see this, that's 8/3 is equal to 264 over 99. This simplifies into this. That's why we can write it as a fraction. That's why we get the correct answer. Moving on to question 64. Right here. One bottle contains 50 milliliters of juice. How many liters of juice are in 24 of these bottles? So recall the metric system. We know 1 liter is equal to 1,000 milliliters. Good way to remember is milli, which is equal to 1,000. So a milliliter of juice. So 1 liter is equal to 1,000 ml. But in this one we only have 500 per bottle, so we have 500 ml. Now look at this. You can notice that 1,000 is just 1,000 divided by 2 is 500. So you know that 500 milliliters is half a liter, or 0.5 L. Since if you divide this by 2, you'll get this proportion. So now we can solve. So if one bottle contains 0.5 liters, how many liters are in 24 bottles? We can do 0.5 times 24, which is equal to 12. So 12 liters are going to be in the bottle. Number 67, right here. In a scale diagram, 0.125 inch represents 125 feet. How many inches represents 1 foot? In these problems, you really want to pay attention to the units. So 0.125 IN for inches is going to equal or represent 125 FT, or feet. And we want to find 1 foot. So we're going to be looking at this side. So how do we get 125 to 1? We divide it by itself. So if we divide this by 125 feet, we end up getting 1 foot, because something divided by itself is 1. But remember, since this is an equation, or if this is a proportion, you could use an equal sign, or you can use that. Sorry, this is not a proportion. You can use an equal sign. Regardless, it doesn't matter. It's just a notation. You have to do to the other side, so you can divide this by 125. 0.125 divided by 125 is equal to 0.001. So you know that 0.01 inches is equal to 1 foot on the map, which is A. Always remember your units when thinking of these problems with scale diagrams. And don't get messed up on the math. Number 70 is right here. The perimeter of a rectangle is 510 centimeters. The ratio of the length to the width of is 3:2. What are the dimensions of this rectangle? So let's draw out our rectangle right here. We have a rectangle. We are given the perimeter is equal to 510. We know the length, the ratio to the length and width is 3:2. So this is going to be 3 and this is going to be 2. correct? Yeah, because that's a ratio. This is going to be 3 and this is going to be 2. That also means that this is 3 and this is 2, and we can add x, 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 and x. Oh, that's the wrong way around. Why do we write x? Because when we have a ratio of 3 over 2, it's going to equal, this is just a simplified version of any of these answers. 3 over 2 can be equal to 150 over 105, it can be equal to 153 over 102. Well, whatever, when it just boils down to a simplified version of those measurements. So for example, if we have 3 over 2, this would be our width and this would be our length. For in this example, the actual width could be 9 over 6, and it'll just be a simplified version of that. But in order to get here, you have to multiply both sides by 3, and it's always going to be, you have to always multiply both sides by the same number, and that's where we get x from, because 2 to 3 is a simplified version of any of these, and we want to find out what we have to multiply these individual sides by in order to get this. That's why we add x. The funny thing, when we have x, we have like terms, so we can combine it and equal it to 510. Because what's the formula for a perimeter? It's 2 length plus twice the width is equal to p. So 3 plus 3x is going to be 6x. 6x plus 4x is equal to 510. 10x is equal to 510. Divide by 10, you get x is equal to 51. Now this is your factor. Whatever you multiply by 51, you have to multiply these two numbers by 51 in order to get the original number. This is it. And you multiply 3 by 51, you get 153. You multiply it by 2, you get 102. So the answer is F. Basically what we found was the number we have to multiply this by in order to get this 102. It may be confusing. If you understand why you need to put an x, it really doesn't matter, just as long as you know that you need to put an x whenever you're dealing with ratios and you can't find it any other way. Moving on to number 74. The sum of the numbers x, y, and z is 50. The ratio of x to y is 1 to 4. The ratio of y to z is 4 to 5. What is the value of y? So a nice strategy I would like to do, or I like to use when I'm given two ratios, is to make a nice little chart. So I have x, I have y, and I have z. I know the ratio of x to y is 1 to 4, so I'll write 1 to 4. And I know the ratio of y to z is 4 to 5, so I'll write 4 to 5. And now I could really look at my proportions the same. And what's interesting about this is that both of my y values are the same. So I know that I can write the proportion of x to z as 1 to 5 because they have a common ground. If 1x is equal to 4y and 5z is equal to 4y, they have common ground, they share a term, which means that the ratio of x to z is always going to be 1 to 5. So now that we're given this, we can write we can add all of them together. We can add 1 to 4. Sorry, we can assign x values to all of these, x, and x, in order to find the original numbers, just as we did for the one above. Oh, I scrolled up too far. Oh, never mind. Yeah, for example, here we were given the simplified version. We had to find the scale factor to get the original version. Same thing here. So what we can do is we can do 1x plus 4x plus 4x plus 5x. Sorry, no, I did something wrong. Thinking about the wrong thing, wrong problem. We can essentially just add all the unique x values, as long as nothing repeats. So we can do 1 plus 4 plus 5x, and this is going to equal to 50. Add all of these, you get 10x is equal to 50, x is equal to 5. So since x is equal to 5, you have to multiply each one of these numbers by that number. So by 5. What is the value of y? You literally multiply 4 times 5. You get 20 as your value for y. Once again, always assign x values when you're given ratios and you're given their sum. That's basically the strategy. Moving on to number 72, I always like these. These are super easy. Kevin has 140 logs and 16 dalts. If he exchanges the logs and dalts for dollars, according to the rates above, how many dollars will he receive? Okay, so they make it nice and easy for us that they put it in dollars, but we don't really need that. We need it in terms of logs and dalts, which they already did for us. But notice that $1 is equal to 0.5 dalts. I think it's easier to deal with whole numbers and not fractions, so I want to make this equal to 1 dalt, so I'll multiply this by 2. So now I know 1 dalt is equal to $2. So now that I know that, I can actually solve it. So if I have 140 logs, a dollar is bigger than a log, I'll divide my 140 by 7, which is going to be 20. So $20 is equal to 140 logs. And then since I have my 16 dalts, if 1 dalt is equal to 2, I'll have to divide it by 2. That'll give me 8, because 16 divided by 2 is 8. I'll add these up and I get 28, which is E. Basically, always convert everything into whole numbers and then do it. I got my dollars by dividing 140 by 7. I got my dalts by dividing 16 by 2 to get the dollars. So that's 28, and then I added them up together. For number 79, this one may look intimidating, but really isn't. Nation has 5 types of coins, sin, dalt, lorg, doesn't matter the names. The relationship between coins is shown above. Which coin is most valuable? Okay, so obviously the coin that's most valuable is going to equal the most things. So if 1 sind is equal to 4 lorgs, a sind is more valuable than lorgs since it's equal to more lorgs. So we can automatically cross this out because it's worth less than something. If 2 plunks is equal to 5 dalts, we know that 1 plunk is bigger than 5 dalts, so we know that 5 dalts is smaller. We can cross that out, and we can cross that out of our answers. If 5 sinds is equal to 2 harps, we know that it takes more sind to get 1 harp. We know that sind is smaller. We can cross out sind too. So now we're left with plunks and harps. So we look back here, and we see that 1 plunk is equal to 3 harps. Since 1 plunk is equal to more of something, the plunk is the biggest value, which is D. Moving on to 84. A certain four-year college consists of 179 teachers. There are 663 first-year students. The student-to-faculty ratio for the entire college is 15:1. What is the total number of second, third, and fourth-year students? So we're given a ratio, and we're given part of our problem. So we're given the total number of teachers, but we can't really do anything with that. So what we can do is set up a proportion. So we know that 15 students is equal to 1 teacher. And we know that there's 179 teachers in total. But we want to find the second, third, and fourth year students. And since this ratio relates to the total number of students, we can write our total number of students as an expression. 663 plus X amount of second, third, and fourth year students combined. And this is going to be our proportion. 15 over this entire thing is going to simplify into 15 over 1. And since they're equal to each other, since they simplify to each other, we can simply cross multiply. And if we cross multiply, I don't really have enough space to write it out, but we get F, which is 2022. Essentially, we set up a proportion that represented the total amount. We matched things together and we cross multiplied. Moving on to number 86. The car is traveling at 55 miles per hour. 1 mile is equal to 5280 feet. Which of the following calculation will give the car's speed in feet per second? Okay, so this is the dimensional analysis problem, which are really easy. So so instead of looking at the confusing answers, we'll just make our own. We'll make our own expression. So we have 55 miles divided by 1 hour. Now we want to go from hour to second, so we want to cancel out our hours. So we'll put 1 hour in the numerator. And we want seconds. So how many seconds are in an hour? You should know that there's 3,600 seconds in an hour. So now these 2 hours are going to cancel out. We're left with seconds. But we still have miles, so we have to cancel out our miles. So we'll write 1 mile in the denominator over 5,280 feet as our numerator. So if we run this, hours and hours are going to cancel. Miles and miles are going to cancel. We're going to be left with feet per second. We multiply this out. We get 55 times 5,280 divided by 3,600, which is F. Moving on, number 92. 4 more problems left after this one. For a presentation, Dion can create 5 slides, so 5S, in 20 minutes. Working at a constant rate, Kyra can create 3 slides in 10 minutes. Working at her own constant rate, what is the total number of slides of both of them can create in an hour? Okay, so how many minutes are in an hour? 60 minutes are in an hour. So in order to equal this to 60, we just have to convert the 10 minutes to 60. So we can multiply this by 3. We can multiply this by 6. Remember, since it's a proportion, whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So we can multiply that by 6. We can multiply that by 3. We get 15 plus 18. 5 plus 8 is 3. Carry over the 1. That's 33, which is G. Moving on to 100, which is right here. In the equation above, W, X, Y, and Z are positive numbers. Which of these are equal to Z? So you have W is equal to Y over Z over X. We've done this before a lot of times. We have to cross multiply in order to put it in terms of X. Sorry, in order to put it in terms of Z. So if we cross multiply, we get WZ is equal to XY. We want Z alone, so we'll divide both sides by W. This cancels out. We have Z is equal to XY over W. This is the only answer choice with W as a denominator, so we can cross all of those out. We have that left. Number 101. On the number line above, W, X, and Y and Z are integers. Ratio of WX is 4 to 2 to 3. What is the total value of WY? So we want to find this. Now, once again, we're only given, from what it looks like, we're only given an actual ratio, but we're also given a total. The total, notice how all of these line segments go from -10 to 8, which means that if we add all of these line segments up, they're going to travel 18 units. So we can write it as that. We can write that 4x plus 2x plus 3x is going to equal to a total of 18 units if we multiply them by the special number. So we end up with 9x is equal to 18, x is equal to 2. So now we multiply 4 by 2, we get the actual value of wx would be 8, or -8. It honestly doesn't matter at this point. We multiply by x, the distance, xy, by 2, we get 4. We multiply the distance of yz by 2, we get 6. None of these values can be negative because you can't have a negative distance. It just doesn't work like that. And if we want to find wy, we just add 8 to 4. We get 12 as our answer. Moving on to 106. 106. A car travels at 4,400 feet per minute. The radius of each tire on the car is 1 foot. How many revolutions does the tire make in 1 minute? I think we went over this before, but whenever you have distance in a circle, and it's like a wheel, you always want to find the circumference. Circumference is 2 pi r. In this case, our pi is 22/7, so we have, and our radius is 1, so we literally have 2 times 22/7. We know the circumference is 44/7. Next, 44% feet. Next, we know that it travels 1440 feet per minute times our distance, which is going to be 4400. Sorry, I ran out of space, but we're going to multiply our total circumference by the distance that we travel in order to get our rate. So we multiply that out, we get 700. I do this for simplicity's sake so that we don't waste any more time because it's a pretty long video, but you multiply them together and you get that number. Essentially, we found the circumference and then we multiplied it by our rate in order to get the revolutions. Number 114, last question. A paste is made by following ingredients: 4 parts water, 4 parts powder, 3 parts water, 2 parts resin, 1 part hardener. 1 billboard required 30 pounds of this paste. How many total pounds required for 4 billboards? What they don't tell you is that this is essentially a giant ratio, and you can just write it on your own. And you also have a total. Since we have a ratio and we have total, we could just assign each of these their own unique x value. It doesn't have to be x, it could be y, it could be z, it could be any letter just representing a value. Is equal to 30, all of that. 2 plus 1 is 3, 3 plus 3 is 6, 6 plus 4 is 10. We have 10x is equal to 30. Our magic number that we have to multiply them is going to equal to 3. So we want to find resin. So if we find resin, 2 parts resin, 2 times 3 is 6. So for every billboard that we make, we use 6 pounds. But we need 4 billboards, so 6 pounds per billboard, and we want 4. We multiply this by 4, we get 24, which is 24 pounds, which is G. And that is their last question. And that's basically as hard as all the problems are going to get. They all have they all solve the same way using the same rules and same format. Have a nice day.